Hi, I'm Larry Becker, and this is the new Tamron SP 15 to 30mm f2.8 DI VC USD lens. It's a full-frame ultra-wide lens with a handful of important features and specs that have quite a few photographers interested. I saw it during our trade show coverage at Imaging USA, and now I've had hands-on with it. Let's have a look at the specs and build quality, the special features, and of course, the image quality. It's available with mounting hardware for Canon, Nikon, or Sony mount DSLR systems. Because of the front element shape, Tamron calls this XGM. That stands for Expanded Glass Molded Aspherical Element, and there's no filter thread, and the lens hood is built in. That XGM front element is matched up with other LD or low dispersion glass elements in the front group. Overall, there are 18 elements in 13 groups. The lens has a switch for autofocus or manual focus, but even when you have autofocus turned on, you can still tweak things with the manual focus ring. There's in-lens vibration compensation that uses a 3-coil system, and it can be switched off if you like. The lens has a rounded 9-blade diaphragm, and it's equipped with an ultrasonic motor Tamron calls USD, and that stands for Ultrasonic Silent Drive. It's quick and it's quiet, but I wouldn't call it silent. The lens is noticeably heavy, and it feels sturdy. The focus ring feels smooth and responsive, and the zoom ring has an appropriate travel. While the front lens element moves forward as you rack the zoom from 30 to 15 millimeters, it always stays within the lens hood portion of the lens body. Tamron says it's moisture resistant and dust resistant, but it's not weatherproof, so I didn't do any photography in the rain. And there are several important lens coatings. Specifically, the front lens element is protected by a fluorine coating, and according to Tamron, this repels water or any type of dirt while making it easier to remove smudges. Then, inside the lens, there are BBAR, which stands for Broadband Anti-Reflection, and E-band coatings. The goal of these coatings, and I'm quoting Tamron here, is to render uniformity in transmissivity across the critical bandwidths, as well as reduce ghosting and flare. I didn't try to smudge the front element to see how easy it would be to clean, but I did shoot quite a few images at sunrise and tried pretty hard to produce lens flare. I got the occasional mini rainbow in a few of my images, but keep in mind, I was really trying to push this lens, and the few lens flare anomalies that I was able to produce were especially small within the frame of my image. And with respect to ghosting, I didn't see any trace of visual anomalies like that, so the E-band coatings are really doing their job. The vibration compensation is harder to test with a lens like this because it's so much easier to see the dramatic difference stabilization makes when you're shooting with a long zoom lens. Nevertheless, I was able to slow down the shutter speed to a 1/15 of a second and an 1/8 of a second while shooting handheld, and there's definitely an improvement with VC on. Handheld indoors is also better with VC. Something interesting, though, that I noticed during my slow shutter speed testing is that I was totally surprised how steady I was able to hold my camera, even with VC off. I expected more blur at 1/15 of a second, so I swapped lenses, I turned off optical image stabilization, and I got about the normal level of blur that I would expect, handheld at a 1/15 of a second. Then back to the Tamron 15 to 30, I guess the extra weight of the lens was part of what steadied my images with VC off. The f2.8 maximum aperture throughout the zoom range makes this an even more versatile lens than you might expect. You can open things up and let in more light, and you can use that wide aperture to capture a shallow depth of field and put the focus just where you want it. I used this Tamron 15 to 30mm f2.8 DI VC USD lens with my Canon 6D and a 5D Mark III with great results. From one shot to the next, I captured smooth, consistent color across the frame, and while the sharpest detail was consistently in the center of the frame, there was minimal fall off of detail out to the edges of my test images. Those 9 aperture blades, coupled with the great glass elements, delivered really beautiful bokeh in the out-of-focus areas of my images, and there were no artifacts or pattern distortion like I've seen with some other lenses. I was getting all the right details that I had hoped for. Even though this lens is considered an ultra-wide zoom lens, I didn't see any barrel distortion in my test images unless I tried a close-up portrait, and that's not really what this lens is for anyway. Even with wide vistas and cityscapes, perspective distortion was only noticeable when things in the frame are close to you. If you're a bit farther away when you're shooting, geometric distortions are almost non-existent and beautiful, wide, accurate panoramas are possible. I shot RAW and I did see some minimal chromatic aberration in areas of sharp contrast when you get away from the middle of the frame. I noticed it a bit in the JPEGs too, but the good news is that even though there wasn't a camera RAW lens profile available when I processed my RAW files, just the default checkbox to remove CA knocked it down to practically invisible. I didn't even have to dial those sliders, and simple RAW processing did an even better job than the JPEG processing of the two cameras that I used, making CA almost invisible. Now around here where I tested this lens, there are a lot of shoreline areas, and I love the smooth, accurate, wide shots that I captured. Even my cityscape images came out very nice. Having shot Tamron lenses over the years, I've been really pleased with their new lenses, especially in the past few years. And this is another Tamron lens that'll have wide appeal. For B&H and Kelby One, I'm Larry Becker. Thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.
We all know the difference a great teacher makes. They inspire you, challenge you, and push you to do the things you never thought you could. For creatives, that means you've got to know your tools inside and out, whether it's Photoshop or photography, lighting or Lightroom, InDesign or After Effects. And while there are free videos out there, you have to watch 30 bad ones just to find a decent one. And a lot of times, the techniques are either outdated, complicated, or just plain wrong. What we need is a better way to learn. One that connects amazing teachers with creative people all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A thriving educational community with nothing but the most talented, engaging, and respected teachers in the industry. Then we simplify the whole learning process with short, clear, concise classes. That's exactly what we've created for you right here at Kelby One.